Mr. Longo, would you lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll take a moment for silent thought and reflection. Calling the meeting to order. This meeting has been posted and announced in accordance with Chapter 231, PL 1975. Mr. Jacobus, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Kugler,
Here.
Mrs. Torres,
Here.
Mrs. Zambari,
Present.
Mr. Peter,
Here.
Mr. Longo,
Here.
Mrs. Lombardi,
Here.
Mr. Odell.
Here. Are there any questions or comments concerning the public business meeting minutes for February 24th, 2014? Hearing none. Do we have any NSGO rep tonight? I guess not. Items to be presented by administration. Mrs. Cummings.
Mrs. Shane is going to present our HIP grade report.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Hello? Okay, good evening. I'm here to report what is our HIB self-assessment. It's one of the state reports that we have to do under the new law, okay? In January of 2011, all the school districts in New Jersey had to implement the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. And in accordance to that, one of our regulations was that we had to fill out a self-assessment last year to grade our school on how we implemented this law. So I'm just going to go through what our grade was and the comparison to other districts and how well we did and what we have to improve on. Okay, just so you know what the self-assessment is, it's completed by the anti-bullying specialist that we have in each building, the school safety team, and the administrator. And like I said, it's to assess the school's compliance. The scores are used to identify strengths and weaknesses. So it's not so much an A or B grade or a failing grade, just to help us improve from year to year. Okay, these are some of the categories that we were rated on: programs, training, staff instruction, curriculum and instruction, HIB personnel, like our school safety teams, incident reporting procedure, how well we do that, investigative procedure, and HIB reporting just in a whole. These are our grades as the schools in the district. We also are based on our district grade. So as a school, the high school has, out of 75 is the total score you can get, we have a 71. The middle school got a 69, number 10 a 71, number 9 61, number 8 a 72, number 7 a 68, number 5 a 64, number 4 a 69, and number 3 a 62. Okay, so our grades are pretty good. When I talk to other anti-bullying coordinators throughout the state, anything above a 55 was in compliance, so we did very well, okay? Our district total grade is a 67, which is phenomenal. The things that we have to improve upon our strengths are actually our investigative procedures. I have a total of 108 points, we got 107. It's very good. And in our reporting, we got a 23 out of a 27. So those are our strengths when we did the self-assessment. This is based upon basically the timeline, how we're reporting it, how our investigation process is, and things like that. So we're doing a very good job in that aspect. Things that we could improve upon have to do more with finances, and this is something just across the state. State promised that they were going to give HIB money to all the school districts, and they haven't yet. So they're asking us to implement programs, but the money really isn't there. So we've been coming up and kind of with our own things, which have been pretty good, but we could always improve. So out of HIB programs or approaches or other initiatives, total we could have got was 135. We got a 117. Staff instruction and training programs, the total we could have got was a 135. We got a 115. Now this is the best part. This is our comparison to other districts. Belleville got a 67, which when you look at the board, I'll read off for those of you who can't see in the back. Bloomfield got a 55, Caldwell has a 67, Cedar Grove a 53, Livingston a 66, Milburn a 59, Montclair a 56, Newark a 53, Nutley a 61, Verona was the highest with 69, and West Orange with a 57. So of all school districts in Essex County, we were second. So I'm very proud of that, and it has a lot to do with our school safety teams, the administrators in each building, and the anti-bullying specialists. So any of you are here, thank you very much. And if you have any questions about this report or anything in regards to the HIB law, you can contact me. My information's up there. You can get it on the website. Thank you.
I'm going to do a very brief presentation on our expenditures for textbooks and, oh, can't hear? I'm going to do a very brief presentation on the expenditures for the last 2 years on textbooks and supplies, just to give you an idea. We had approximately a $62 million budget. Approximately 75% of that budget was used for salaries and benefits. That left us about 25% of that budget to run the entire district, including heating, repairs, etc.
You're typing in the wrong spot.
Oh. Bear with me, please. This takes all right. You only have part of my password. Only part of it.
You have to change this all. I know it feels soft.
Here's my password.
But then what? It's a B, isn't it B?
Am I sure? Yes.
Is it wrong?
Can't go to the Wi-Fi.
Jack? I can't get into this. Come help me. Come and help me. What's the matter? I put in my We're lucky this is only 3 slides. No, 3 slides. Oh, I don't know what's wrong.
Mrs. Cummings,
Sir?
in the interest of keeping the meeting moving, maybe we'll postpone this presentation until
Good idea.
the following meeting. Thank you.
We'll do this at the next meeting. It isn't. It's not. It's not mine. It's finished. We're not finished. We're not finished.
Is the caps locked in on?
No, no. No, it's done.
Yeah. We'll just, we'll
We'll
continue,
do it at the next-
we'll make the presentation at the next meeting.
We are also recognizing National Library Week, which will be held between April 13th through the 19th, and there will be a resolution later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cummings. Items, remarks, and committee reports will be presented by board members. Mr. Cooper?
I'd just like to thank the administration for the great report on the HIV, a great success, and continue. And please feel free to reach out to any of us, whatever we can help to continue that process going forward. And the finances, I know it's a struggle for all of us right now, but we hope to rectify it and move forward on that as well. And thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Mrs. Torres?
Yes, I'd also like to thank the administration on an excellent report on the HIV. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Torres. Mr. Frieda?
No report tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Frieda. Mrs. Zangari?
No report this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Zangari. Mr. Longo?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to wish our Assistant Superintendent, Mrs. Cummings, a wonderful, happy birthday.
Thank you, Mr. Longo. Mrs. Lombardi?
Yes, thank you, Ms. McShane, for your report. That's good news. And I just want to mention that yesterday I attended the Middle States welcome luncheon and ceremony that we had for them as they're in this week doing their, I don't know what you call audit. Accreditation. So they'll be sitting with many people and administrators throughout the week. But our students, so proud. The MassCom did a nice video of every aspect of Belleville High School. And we had a little skit from our Seussical musical that will be going on over the weekend. And then we had our SGO president make a nice speech. It was wonderful. I was really proud sitting there. So thank you, Mr. Pagano, and the administration, everybody involved.
Thank you, Mrs. Lombardi. I'll preface my comments tonight by saying thank you all for coming out. I know many of you are here to discuss the budget. There will be no budget presentation tonight, as this is only a preliminary budget that was sent down, that needs to be voted upon, to be sent down to the county. In fact, this is not a regular public meeting, and this needs to be changed. It was a special meeting in order to approve the preliminary budget to be sent to the county. Please understand that the budget has not been finalized, that there is a lot of work that still needs to be done, and that the final budget will be presented at the May 7th meeting.
Is that when the public presentation will be?
The public presentation will be May 7th for the finalized budget.
Thank you, Mr. President.
So all the numbers at this point are fluid. Nothing is written in stone. Administration and the budget committee has a lot of work to do. I assume well, I know, I don't assume, I know that there will be a lot of work done on this budget. With that being said, I'd like to open remarks by by citizens. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Patricia Dolan, please come to the microphone, state your name and address and group affiliation if appropriate.
Patricia Dolan, 67 Harrison Street in Belleville. When students graduate from high school, is a list comprised of their names and addresses and given out to anyone who requests it? No, it's not given, or you don't know?
No, it's not.
It's not given.
Confidential.
It's confidential. Okay, because I received from, my daughter received from Belleville United with Mr. Zangari's return address, an invitation with a request for a contribution of $100. She is not a registered voter.
Is this relevant to the school district then?
Well, it is, because the only place I could think of that he would have gotten the address is through the school.
Is she a registered voter, ma'am?
No, she is not.
She's not a registered voter?
No, she's not. So, I wouldn't know any place else that they would have been able to get that address, that name. She goes by Katie, she doesn't go by Caitlin. Caitlin is her school name.
Mrs. Cummings has stated that this information is not released. I don't know where that you would have to contact the campaign.
Well, I have an Oprah request here, can I hand it to Mr. Zangari?
You can do
Request
that, no
list
ma'am.
After the meeting?
It would be appropriate to give it to Mr. Zangari. You can present it at the board offices tomorrow morning, and somebody, and Mr. Jacobus can.
Why would I give it to the board offices? It's his address under Belleville United.
Ma'am, if you want to do, I don't know if their information is operable, but that has nothing to do with the board.
Okay, but then why would I bring it to the board's office?
Well, if you're saying you have an Oprah request, if you want to request information from Belleville United, that has nothing to do with us, ma'am. You can do whatever you want with that.
Right, well, that's why I asked, could I hand
Well,
it to him
at this
after the
point,
meeting?
not after the meeting, and then what you do after the meeting, I can't control.
Okay, thank you.
Tom McCormick, please come to the podium, state your name, address, and group affiliation if appropriate.
Tom McCrowan.
I believe it is, sir.
Okay. Continental Avenue, Belleville. First of all, it says agenda. If there was an agenda for tonight's meeting, why wasn't it up on the website? As of 5:30, 6 o'clock, there was still no agenda. So I assumed there was no agenda for tonight's meeting. Also, under item 2, when you called the meeting to order, you said that it was posted and announced in accordance with the proper laws. When the meeting was posted, it was posted as a budget meeting. But now you're saying you can't hold it as a budget meeting, you're now going to hold it as a special meeting. Legally, I don't know if that's fair, but again, I'm just raising points. The meeting was advertised as a budget meeting. I think the people that showed up here tonight expected to see a tentative budget, which is here. But they didn't expect to see any of the other things that you were going to be voting on, because it was only supposed to be a budget meeting. Under item C, Resolution 6, I guess, where you were recognizing National Library Week as a past member of the library board, I'm glad to see that you're taking the time to recognize National Library Week. It's a shame, though, that every one of our schools doesn't have a library. I think that if it's that important that you mention how important National Library Week is, then I think more has to be done to make sure we have a library in every school, which we don't presently have. Under finance, you talk about the budget. I have a question. I was under the impression that the budget had to be in by May 1st. That the law this year was changed, and May 1st was the date that you had to have the budget into the state, or at least the county. You're saying that the numbers that are here, which you said are fluid, they're giving us an approximation, that's what you're sending down to Trenton or to
the county.
To the county. If they're so fluid, then I don't understand what the purpose is of sending them down to the county. You have to do it. But, all right, the numbers are here. I guess they give us an idea of what's going to happen or not happen. I have a question, and again, I questioned if they're due May 1st, why are you going to have a meeting on the 7th? It seems like it's after the fact. Under bank cap adjustment, can somebody explain that $1,388,000? Is that this year's budget, or is that being added to next year's budget? I find it confusing, and the last paragraph on that page, I was not an English teacher. I did teach for years, but if you read that last paragraph, it does not make sense. First of all, you say you're submitting a true copy of the minutes. What does that mean? What's the difference between a copy of the minutes and a true copy of the minutes?
Mr. Jacobus, can you explain that paragraph, sir?
Yes, this is basically a resolution that the county office basically sends down and suggests that we use in order to forward them the preliminary budget, tentative budget that you're doing tonight, because they fully review it. A true copy of the minutes probably referring to the fact that it would be sealed by the business administrator, so it would be a sealed copy.
Because you say probably, so you're not sure what it's...
No, I have to see why the county uses that terminology.
It says, at which the need of the unused spending authority to be included in the base budget was formally introduced and discussed in public. To me, it sounds like you're talking present tense, past tense. And again, if it all goes back to that $1 million, is that $1,388,000? Is that something being added to this year's budget? Or is this something that you're adding to the proposed budget for next year?
You can answer.
Well, let me straighten out the dates first, and that is because you changed to a November election. This budget process is a little different than we are used to. March 20th is the deadline to get a tentative budget to the county office. They have full review, and prior to the public hearing, you have to advertise the budget. You can't advertise the budget to the county office as reviewed. So what we're doing tonight is really kicking off that process, and then we would go down and meet with the county office, any questions that they would have in the budget. Going back to your question about the budget cap, the bank cap, there is a budget cap of 2%.
Right.
However, in the past, had you not increased your budget up to 2%, the state tracks that. And the state actually has given us that number as being the amount of money that you could be compliant and add to the budget as part of a bank.
And isn't that what we did last year? I thought last year's went up because we hadn't gone to a full 2% for like 2 years.
Last year's went up partially, but we only used part of the bank cap last year.
Okay, but so again, this $1 million is in excess of the 2% cap, but we're talking about next year's budget, not
Next year,
not this year's budget.
2014-15, yeah.
Mr. McCone, your time is up, sir.
Thank you.
Joe Fronerato, please come to the podium, state your name, address, and group affiliation if appropriate.
My name is Joseph Fortunato. I'm representing the Belleville Senior Citizens of Belleville. I'm Vice President of the Belleville Senior Citizens of Belleville, and I have interest on their behalf. I live at 523 Union Avenue, Belleville. In regards of the question I just heard the gentleman in front of me speak about the increase in the budget of 2014. Does that include the security that we put on board for a little over $2 million? Within 5 years, it's going to be paid off?
Are you asking if the payments are budgeted into
Yes.
next year's budget?
Yes.
Next year's payment for it would be budgeted into that figure, yes, sir.
The other question on security, I know we are maybe the third municipality in the country for this security. Do we also have the police that were first hired on board still?
I'm sorry, sir. You talking about the resource officers?
I'm
that
talking
are
about the
here?
security. We have the security system.
We have security officers that
We
are
have
hired.
policemen also on board?
There are 2 policemen that are also in the schools, yes, sir.
Just 2?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm glad. Now, I
They're
understand.
as resource officers.
Okay. Now, I also understand in security, Fort Lee installed almost the same security system for maybe $300,000. What's the difference of hours of $2 million?
Sir, I don't know what system Fort Lee did. I don't know the specifications of that system. I couldn't tell you what they did. I'm sure Fort Lee did what was appropriate for Fort Lee. We did what we thought was appropriate for Belleville.
In regards to Library Week, April 13th to 19th, are we doing any work at the public library in Belleville to adjourn or to work with our library here?
With the books and baskets, there are several, I mean, we try to work as closely as possible with the library.
But why was the maintenance crew of this school at the library today, 9:30 to almost 10:30 today? I witnessed it. Why was your maintenance man there? Don't you think it's a conflict of the director of the library who has influence to the school system?
Joan Todd? Sir, I don't know if there was any of our workers at the school, but we'll look into that.
Well, why isn't your maintenance supervisor on board here so he can answer questions pertaining to what I'm asking?
Well, sir, I mean, you're very welcome to step into the board offices tomorrow.
No, I'm asking you, gentlemen.
I don't know, sir.
You people are on board, you are the bosses.
Mr. Fortunato, I don't want to argue with you, sir, but I don't stand here every day and run the school district.
Well, I think the maintenance supervisor...
You're telling me that, and I'm sure that if you go into the board offices tomorrow morning, that you will get an answer for.
Well, I thought
your
these
question.
meetings are for anything pertaining to the Board of Education, and I believe the superintendent or supervisor of maintenance should be here to answer questions. Where are his men? Why were they there? None of you people know, right?
No, sir.
I don't want to put any of the people that did the work, I don't want to hold them responsible or put them on the spot, but you people should know where your workers are. You don't think it's a good idea he should be here to answer questions? Where his men were today or yesterday?
Sir, this is your time for comment. If you'd like to answer that question, you are very welcome to come to the board offices tomorrow and speak with Mr.
I'm
Casella.
here at the board, right here. You're the board.
I understand that, sir, but I don't stand here every day and find out where security officers are, where maintenance people are, where teachers are. That I do not know. That is the business of the administration. You can ask that question very easily tomorrow morning in the board.
All right, the other question would be, I understand the budget's gonna, you assume the budget from this year, from last year is gonna be up $1,388,926? Was that about, or what, approximately?
Sir, those numbers are all fluid. We don't have a final budget yet. But once we have our final budget, it will be presented on May 7th.
Because like I said, the seniors in Belleville are hurting. People with one-family houses are hurting. Now, you people are responsible for the budget. The seniors, I'm interested in seniors that are hurting.
I understand that, sir. I understand that the seniors are on a fixed income, and I, as well as everyone that sits on this board, are residents of Belleville and pay taxes as well.
I'm glad you're gonna get hurt also. The other thing I want to mention is, I know elections coming up in May. And I know you people
Mr.
are on...
Fortunato, if that has nothing to do with the board, your time is up.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
if I may, just two quick comments. The first is that budget number tonight, just a reminder, it's a tentative number. It cannot go up from there. It can only stay the same or go down. The other thing I would like to say in reference to what Mr. Fornato was talking about is the Belleville School District, the town, and the library has all benefit from the shared service with each other. It's no different from when, do I know where our maintenance men were today? But no. But buildings and grounds committees and budget committees in the past, it's no different from our maintenance men being on town property, which is our stadium, which is no difference when the police station or town hall calls and needs our workers there. It's no difference when the Department of Public Works needs to borrow a salt truck. I mean, all these employees are getting paid with tax money. If our men are available to work at the library, why would the town hire someone? Why would the Department of Public Works hire someone? Why would the police station hire someone? It's a shared service. I mean, that question is, I mean,
I understand.
I don't.
Because who's the director of the library is, that's why.
Mr. Fortunato, I would ask that you not
Well, he
do that,
knows
sir.
who the director is,
Sir,
and that's why.
Sir, I don't
They
want,
were there.
Mr. Fortunato, I do not want to have, thank you very much, sir. Jeff Madigan, please come to the podium, state your name, address, and group affiliation if appropriate.
Jeff Mattingly, 56 Walnut. Just to pick up on that, I imagine it would depend exactly upon what those workers were doing. That should be found out. One other thing, the anti-bullying that we're seeing, that is a self-assessment, is it not?
Yes.
Thank you. Since I received my Oprah request of the audit from I noticed Mr. Veza has not been in attendance anymore to answer any questions that he was at the helm of when those 32, more than 10 times the allowable irregularities came to pass. Could you tell us, the audience, exactly what his employment status is at this point?
We do not talk about employment status, Mr. President, but he is on the agenda tonight for the board to accept his resignation effective immediately.
Oh, okay, thank you. Who exactly is on the budget committee from the board? Could you tell me that, please?
Mrs. Lombardi, Mr. Kugler, and myself.
And yourself, okay.
Yes.
How often have you held meetings since this incredibly irregular 32 spending irregularities has come to pass in the 2012 budget audit?
There have been regular meetings, sir.
There have been regular meetings. Have any other board meeting members been in attendance to those meetings? I mean, this is like monumental, 32 irregularities.
No, because, sir, you understand that if more than 3 members attend any meeting, it would have to be a public meeting, sir.
Okay, thank you. I saw a link to the financial disclosures of our last board auditor. And I saw that $1,800 had been donated to the election fund to Mr. Frieda and Mr. Now, this is pertinent. This is our auditor who donated money to the election fund to Mr. Frieda and Mr. Longo. And then there was an additional $1,000. You don't see a conflict? I mean, I know
Sir,
that's his
that's
prerogative.
a municipal election. It has nothing to do with the Board of Education. You are free to ask the candidates at another time, or you can take what you, or you can contact the donator. I have no information on that.
Well, it seems like a conflict to me. I'd just like to point that out. They were auditing the board.
Well, sir, I mean, I don't know if there's any conflict there. I would have to look at the election laws to see if that, and I would have to look at the reports. Obviously, I haven't done that. You have. If you feel that there's something inappropriate, sir, then you have to do what you have to do. I don't know anything about it, and it doesn't concern this board right now.
Okay, okay, got that. Appreciate the remarks. It's come to my attention that there is a teacher, Mr. Andrew Moya, who may
We don't
not-
discuss
We don't
personnel.
discuss any personnel, sir.
Okay, can you discuss the fact that teachers may be having less than the required 5 classes
in the department that he is in since he has been brought into the
I
high
will
school?
not discuss personnel matters, sir.
No comment?
No, sir.
No. It's kind of feel like hamstrung here, you know, like there's these heavy looming questions around in terms of employment with people who are...
That's the law, Mr. Mattingly. It is illegal to discuss personnel in public. It is
Well,
illegal. We
I appreciate
cannot.
that, Mr. Zangari. I mean, maybe we could hear that from our board attorney.
How many times has it been said at a board meeting? We do not discuss.
All right,
personnel
well,
in
then,
public.
I guess there's
Mr.
other...
Zangari, please let Mr. Mattingly finish his statement.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We're having potential budget meetings. It seems as though that from the wording on the agenda, that this is being assumed to be the public meeting for the budget, which enables it to be presented to the county, which is the arm of the state. That is how I read that last paragraph that Mr. McCrowan felt was ambiguous. And so if this is not in fact a budget meeting, then don't you have to have a budget meeting specifically in order to pass that on to the county?
Sir, we are voting on tonight we will be voting on the preliminary budget, which will be sent to the county tomorrow. The county will then review it, contact administration if there are any concerns, questions, or changes that need to be made. The budget committee and administration will work closely together to formulate the budget for next year. The final budget will be presented to public on May 7th.
Okay, so then there was, it seemed ambiguous.
I understand, it seems a bit ambiguous, I understand that, sir.
Okay.
But that's what's happening tonight.
So will there be a specific budget meeting that seems as though it is required in order to pass it along?
Yes, sir, that will happen on May 7th, and you will be where the budget is presented. And your time is up, sir, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that.
Mr. President, I really apologize. Just one more comment. Just a reminder that it is also unlawful for the Board of Education to hold a public budget hearing until the county approves it. So we are not allowed to hold a hearing by law. It's unlawful for us to hold a hearing until they approve what we submit to them this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Zangari. Vincent Frantantoni, please come to the podium, state your name, address, and group affiliation if appropriate, sir.
Vincent Frantantoni, Mount Prospect Avenue, the son. Represent myself and the overburdened taxpayers of Belleville. The outrageous auditor's report within 30-some-odd violations of misappropriating money or misspending or just failure to do someone's job. If this was the private industry, the person would be fired immediately. Now, in Resolution 6, is this the reason, that audit report, the reason for Mr. Bez's resignation?
We do not discuss personnel matters in public, sir.
It's on the agenda.
We will be accepting his resignation tonight, sir. The reason for his resignation is confidential.
All right, well, then let me ask you this. Has anyone been brought to task for the results of that audit?
Mr. Frantantoni, we have hired an interim BA in the meantime, and we are doing a permanent BA search. Mr. Jacobus is the interim business administrator, and he will be working to rectify and put through all of the corrective action plans regarding the audit report.
That wasn't the question. The question was, has anybody been brought to task for that failed audit?
We're not going to discuss personnel, Mr. Frantantoni. You can ask it in any different way you want. We will not discuss personnel, sir.
All right, Ms. Cummins stated that she attempted to make her presentation. Last year's budget was $62 million. I see this is $65 million. That's a $3 million increase this year?
You're looking at a preliminary budget, sir. That is not the final figure. I would not dare to say that that's going to be the number, because it may change. But I can guarantee this one thing, it won't go up.
Well, Mr. Frieda, you know,
I'm Mr. Rivera, sir. My name is Mr. Rivera, sir.
I've come in here many, many times, over 3 decades or more. And the resolution says the base budget was formally introduced and discussed in public. Now, both the Board of Ed and the township, when they introduce a budget, someone makes a presentation and goes line by line.
Mr. Frantantoni, the meeting that you will attend, I'm sure that will go line by line and go over the entire budget once it is finalized, as this is just a preliminary budget and is not the final draft. On May 7th, we will again, as I said, stated earlier, we will review the budget at that time, the final budget. This is not the final budget, sir. This is only what is being presented to the county, and according to what the county requires us to do.
Well, what do you mean introduce? How do you interpret introduce? Normally, we used to get a handout. And years ago, we had the whole budget, but then it got down to maybe a half a dozen or a dozen pages. What does introduce mean if we have nothing at all to look at here?
The tentative budget is not introduced to the public. The tentative budget goes down to the county for review, and the county will contact administration, and they will work on the budget and ask for any changes or accept it. At that point, on May 7th, we will have a finalized budget, and then we will present that to public, sir.
Will we have the complete budget before the public hearing? So somebody, you know, I mean, you just don't look at a 40-page budget the night of the meeting.
Part of the process that this starts and initiates is the review with the county office, as we've been saying. And then by law, you have to advertise the budget based on the format that the state provides. So you have that at least 4 or 5 days prior to the meeting.
Was the whole budget, because, you know, I mean, I don't agree with the legislature on this. Years ago, they said you could advertise by a summary or title only, which I and many others went to Trenton and objected. But years ago, we had 4 or 5 newspaper pages, and we would be able to see every line item. So how are you going to advertise it? A short summary?
The only way this district can advertise it is by the format from the state of New Jersey. So
Will that whole budget, you said 4 or 5 days in, will that whole budget be available 4 or 5 days before the public hearing?
in the state format, that it will be available.
All right, now you, in regards to number 2, the bank cap adjustment, I don't know if you misspoke, but you said the budget cap. Now, from my understanding, those are 2 different things.
That's correct.
The budget cap and the bank cap. So what, did you misspeak when you said budget cap?
When I said the budget cap, then I clarified it and said, it was a clarification that the budget cap, the tax levy is 2%, as was said before, and then there is the bank cap, which is the number the state allows the district to increase the budget based on not increasing the budget in previous years.
Thank you, Mr. Frantantoni. Your time is up, sir. Have a good evening.
I got a couple more questions.
Sir, your time is up, sir.
Well, I just want, the last thing
Sir.
is I hope if you're gonna hire a maintenance director, you do
Marlene Shore,
due
would you please
diligence
come to the
and
podium,
advertise it
state your
properly.
name, address, and group affiliation, if appropriate.
Marlene Shore, 75 Rossmore Place, no group affiliation. This meeting was advertised as a budget meeting. I understand the process relatively well, that obviously we need to provide the initial budget to the county. However, this is not a standard meeting date for the Board of Ed. This was scheduled as a separate date for this budget. Obviously, we need to do this, and certainly there's no intention to obstruct this process regarding this. However, if one schedules a special meeting, as you know, anything else outside of the subject of the special meeting cannot be included or discussed on the agenda. Therefore, the only issue that can be addressed tonight is that which you advertised, which is in the area of finance. All other areas of this cannot be addressed or finalized until your regularly scheduled meeting of a Board of Ed, because none of these things, other than the budget and the scheduling the date for the budget, constitute an emergency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shore, you bring a very interesting argument, and we are quite honestly not sure. We are going to take a short recess to research this, and then we will reconvene. May I motion to recess?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, this is great. What's going on?